Welcome to He Walks With Us Everywhere. I'm Traci. Thank you so much for joining me for today's lesson. I encourage you to read scripture always for yourself and allow the Holy Spirit to be your guide and teacher. And I pray that all of you are blessed richly and mightily strengthened through our Lord Jesus Christ.
Hey y'all, I hope everyone's doing well, and I do apologize once again that it's been a while since I've made a longer lesson, but I've been working on a couple of different things, and I just wanted to go ahead and get this one up because I think it's really important. It's important for everyday life. It's important for all of us to be aware of what we're signing, what we're doing, and this one is going to be called the fine print. And the reason why I'm calling it the fine print is, terms of service. Did you ever read them? We all need to be so aware, ever more aware these days with what we're putting our penmanship to, what we're putting our initials to, because it's very crafty how the devil is working. He is deceptive, right? He's sly. Like, he's not going to come out. And I do not believe that when the son of perdition arises on the scene, I do not believe that the false prophet is going to announce that he's the false prophet. The son of perdition, I don't believe he's going to announce it, at least not at first, right? Like, serve me, worship me, I am, as God, right? I just don't see that because the devil is a liar. He's the father of lies. When has he ever come forward and been like, yeah, so this is a trap that I've set before you, and oops, be careful not to fall into it? Like, never. And it's no less than that when it comes to the finer print of these corporations and organizations and doctory places, right? So we've got to be aware. And so let's get started here, y'all. And I'm going to mosey on through here. I had found this article where it literally is talking about nobody reads the fine print. Maybe they should. Now listen to some of these. There was a Georgia high school teacher who won $10,000 after she closely read the terms and conditions that came with a travel insurance policy that she had purchased for a trip going to England. So they had promised a reward to the first person who emailed the company in their fine print. And it was to prove a point, right? They said that we understand most customers don't actually read contracts or documentation when buying something, but we know the importance of doing so. So that's why they created this top secret pay and read campaign effort to highlight the importance of reading policy documentation from start to finish. How many times do we do an update on our phones, okay? How many times do we do it? And it's like 17 little, it's a small device, right? And it's like all of that filled up with information that's the size of a mustard seed. And they're like, you must agree to the terms and conditions. Well, did we read the terms and conditions? I am guilty as the next person. But some things were brought to my attention, and I'll show you here in just a little bit exactly what I'm talking about and why it's so important that we read the print on the page or on our phones or on our laptops or whatever we're on. So they went on, check this one out. So in 2017, 22,000 people who signed up for free public Wi-Fi inadvertently agreed to 1,000 hours of community service in cleaning toilets and relieving sewer blockages. No kidding. They put that in their agreement. Again, jokes, proving points, or more sinister. A few years later, Londoners agreed, presumably inadvertently, that's what they presume, to give away their oldest child in exchange for Wi-Fi access. Before they could get the internet, users had to check a box agreeing to assign their firstborn child to us for the duration of eternity. According to The Guardian, 6 people signed up. I mean, listen to what they're doing, what they're saying, where this is leading, right? It talks about this one on April Fool's 2010. British retailer GameStation put a clause in their agreement with a box that was already checked. If users didn't uncheck the box, they agreed to grant GameStation a non-transferable option to claim for now and forevermore your immortal soul. GameStation said that if it chose to exercise the soul transfer, it would serve notice in 6-foot-high letters of fire. I mean, y'all, this is insane. You know, they're telling us, you know, through their jokes, and albeit probably a lot of them were done with, you know, April Fools in mind, that kind of mentality or that sense. But what are we looking at here? You know, I think there's just a lot to be said for the fine print, and we could get ourselves into a world of hurt if we aren't prudent. There's the Amazon AWS agreement too. Okay, so this actually was out in 2016. In this article, it says copyright 2019 NPR. All right, well, Amazon put in their fine print that the development engineer promised that they won't use it to operate systems that could put someone's life in danger, such as aircraft, autonomous vehicles. So that didn't happen. But they went on to say, so far so good, says that section doesn't apply. However, if the U.S. Center for Disinformation Control certifies the existence of a widespread viral infection transmitted via bites, like what, like GMO mosquito bites maybe, or contact with bodily fluids that causes human corpses to reanimate, and we've heard a lot about that, haven't we, and seek to consume living human flesh, blood, brain, or nerve tissue. That's very specific, isn't it? And is likely to result in the fall of organized civilization. They put this in there. They're saying that there's this thought that there could be like a zombie apocalypse. MailChimp is another one that talked about this. They talked about in their fine print, we won't be held liable for any delays or failure in performance of any part of the service from any cause beyond our control, such as may include fires, earthquakes, nuclear accidents, and zombie apocalypse. Apple iTunes end-user agreement contains a clause prohibiting its use to construct weapons of mass destruction. You will not use these products for any purpose prohibited by United States law, including without limitation the development, design, manufacture, or production of nuclear, missile, or chemical or biological weapons, the agreement reads. So I like what it said there. It said, it is unclear how one might use iTunes to construct such weapons. But why are these clauses in there? Why are all of these little nuggets dropped into these fine print agreements, right? That you have to sign in order to move forward with the product or with the update. And there have been, like the New York Times reported, again, this is back from 2019. I don't know when the New York Times reported it, but some have pushed back on the onerous terms and conditions that no one reads, yet continue to be the legal backbone of the internet. In an editorial last month, oh, well, there you go, the NYT criticized what it called the legal fiction of consent, suggesting people have unwittingly signed away their privacy rights to big internet companies. Absolutely. It says Americans deserve strong policy protections. The editorial board wrote, consent is not enough to replace them. The clicks that pass for consent are uniform, uninformed, non-negotiated, and offered in exchange for services that are often necessary for civic life. How true is that? So here is the article. This is the one I was talking about from 2016. All right. And again, I want to come on here to say that so much of the history, and we're talking like our history, is being written in real time. It is not history at all. It's being rewritten according to those who want you to see a certain perception or a certain idea or a certain narrative, right? They are creating the history with which we see, and the looking glass that we have to look into, right? Or the look back over a period of time. And I'm going to show you what I mean. You see, this article written on November 11th, 2016, talks about that AWS service of agreement, right? And this was in The Guardian. And it says, if the world has ever ends via a virus, and it's interesting in 2016 that this came out, right? When did the worldwide problem come on the scene? So 4 years earlier, they called it in a clause, didn't they? Interesting. And it's talking about reanimation, of course, which we just read. So let's take a look and see. It says in their clause that, well, first of all, look at what clause it is. It says in the AWS Terms of Service, it was clause 57.10. This restriction will not apply in the event of the occurrence certified by the United States CDH or successor body. What's the successor body? Is that the one world thingy? The WHO of a widespread viral infection transmitted via bites or contact. Okay, so that first part's kind of interesting, right? Or like telling that it won't apply. The restriction won't apply in the event that, and it has to be certified. Since when did this form of government become a form of government? Like, from what point do they give certification? And what successor body could possibly give that kind of certification? I don't know. But here's what I looked at. It had a link right here, the AWS Terms of Service, okay? And again, let's look back. This was from February of 2016. So I did my due diligence and I clicked on their little link. And this is what came up. All right? So you see here, it says, oh, you can't really read that very well. I apologize, you guys, but it says, you must comply with current technical documentation applicable to the services, including applicable user, admin, and development, blah, 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 right? So you must comply. I thought that wording was very, very forward and telling. Again, here it's talking about not using any of it for harm. And then look at this. When you scroll down on this document, and really on here, what I want you to see is the date. Up here underneath AWS Terms of Service Terms, it says last updated October 28th, 2022. So let's scroll down and find that section. We were told it was in clause 57.10, right? Today, when you go to that link and you scroll down to 57.10, it's not there. Lo and behold, it's been removed. And these terms of service were last updated on the 28th of October. So if you were to try and follow this article from 2016 to today, what would most people think? They'd think, oh, well, that article that was written back then must have been a mess up or a mistake or something else. But here, sure enough, it's 57, and all it says is, if your messages sent through Amazon MQ are blocked, delayed, or prevented from delivery by reason outside of our control, your payment obligations continue. Outside of our control. So let's look at this now. I wanted to look at the provider agreement. I started to think about what kind of, little fine print are service providers not looking at all the way, or maybe not understanding. And in their program agreement, this would be for anybody who's giving these things in the body, right, that are abominations. It says here that the organization must preserve the record for at least 3 years or longer if required by state, local, or territorial laws. Such records must be made available to any federal, state, local, or territorial public health department to the extent authorized by law. Okay. So they're going to be forced to give the records to pretty much anybody that the government says they need to, right? It's talking about they have to follow all of the requirements. They have to follow all of their guidelines. Regardless, it's just insanity. It's insanity. Let's go ahead and look at the next article. Here, it talks about this agreement, and this is like even fine print. This agreement expressly incorporates all recommendations, requirements, and other guidance that this agreement specifically identifies through footnoted web links. Organization must monitor such identified guidance for updates. Organization must comply with such updates. And here they have 4 of these footnotes, 4 of these little links that, according to the signature placed on this form, says that you must abide by whatever those other little documents say. Do you see? It's cliff note after cliff note. It's one page after another. And it's absolutely mind-blowing. Here it goes on, and down here it says, by signing this form, I certify that all relevant officers, directors, employees, so your bosses are signing you to these agreements too, and agents of organization involved in handling this injectable understand and will comply with the agreement requirements listed above, and that the information provided in section A and B is true. I mean, y'all, there is so much going on. Look even further down. Non-compliance, they love that word, with the terms of agreement may result in suspension or termination from the CD's crummy crumbs injectable program, and criminal and civil penalties under federal law, including but not limited to the False Claims Act, and it shows the statutes and stuff, and other related federal laws, and it shows a few more. But you see, this is their out right here, including but not limited to. If I were a provider and I was about to sign something like this, you better be absolutely certain what you're agreeing to, right? You're saying that if I don't comply, whatever that compliance is, which means that if I don't go and check in these footnoted links, these web links, pretty regularly, since we're seeing they're updating things everywhere on a regular basis to change with their agenda, right? Then you're going to be in possibly criminal and civil penalties. It's unreal, y'all. I mean, look at this. This is the program profile information. It says populations served by this location. Select all that apply. So these are the people that they're really, I think, concerned with, right? But more often than not, what do you see on there? You see rural communities. You see underinsured or uninsured. You see disabilities. You see underlying medical conditions. You see higher risk, tribal communities, racial and ethnic minority groups, pregnant women, people experiencing homelessness, military, so folks who are, like patriots, right, or people who actually have that national idea and were raised up in it. Let's continue to read here. Critical infrastructure workers, education, law enforcement, food, ag workers, fire services, healthcare workers, long-term care facility residents. They are just running the gamut, y'all. And I'm telling you, the reason why they're interested is because they're trying to track their data. Like, every single person has to have a card. They're supposed to input all of their personal information on these, non-government entities so that they can track and monitor the progress of the depopulation that they're working towards. That's all this is. This is not because they care so much about what population is affected, or I should say infected. They care about which ones they're going to be knocking out. And then look here. Here's a link. Here's a link that need extra precautions. All right? This is about the cold storage and other things, okay? It says at the bottom, though, 2019, need extra precautions. People at increased risk. What do they mean, people at increased risk? And here you see a date of 9/14/20 on this document. So I went and I clicked the link, and lo and behold, What do you know? It's the same link that they put on here, people at increased risk. And oops, we can't seem to find the page you were looking for. Please try our search or A to Z index. So if you're a provider and you're signing this document and oh my word, yeah, there's extra precautions, people at increased risk, you would think that for informed consent purposes, they would want to know this stuff and do more research. Oh, but if you follow the link, this is what you get. Nada. Nothing. And that brings me to my personal interjection on this, okay? So I'm going to pop back up here on the screen for a second. You know, taking anybody to the dentist is a tricky sort of thing right now. And I know that sounds ridiculous to some people, but any provider, you guys, all of these providers out there, and maybe not all of them, but a vast majority of them. I mean, we know that the vast majority of the world is not on the side of Jesus Christ. We know the vast majority of this world are in fact antichrist. They're against him. They are in rebellion. They're living in sin. Providers are no different. They're still human beings who are fallible and sinful and wicked and evil. All right? And so we were given consent forms at the dentist. This has been a year-ish ago. And I knew within my heart that I shouldn't sign it without reading the whole thing. Praise the Lord for that. This is what I found. In this dental record, you know, that it's your privacy and consent forms or whatever, there was this clause that gave me great pause. It says, national security. We may disclose to military authorities, excuse me? We may disclose to military authorities the health information of armed forces personnel under certain circumstances. We may disclose to authorized federal officials health information required for lawful intelligence. What health information could you possibly need from me at my dentist office for lawful intelligence? I mean, is my tooth a weapon of mass destruction now? Counterintelligence and other national security activities. Other national security activities. I don't think there should be any other national security activities. We may disclose to correctional institution or law enforcement official having lawful custody of protected health information of inmate or patient under certain circumstances. See, the way that they word it would make somebody looking at it in a hurry think that, oh, that's just for inmates, oh, that's just for armed forces. You've got to read the fine print, y'all. We've got to read the fine print. That's basically, not basically, what that's saying is that they have the right. Once you tick that box and put your initials on there, you just gave over the right for them to release any and all of your information medically to any federal, local health, intelligence personnel. The IRS even, right? I mean, hoo-ha's, they've got all sorts of allowances now. All right? So I didn't sign it. I still haven't. Next time we went back, I was asked for it because they saw that there was no record on file. I said, yeah, I'm not signing that. And they were like, oh, well, they don't run across that. Everybody's signing, everybody is signing these things without hesitation, without pause, without questioning, without praying, without discerning. And so when you stand there, because you are informed, because you have done your due diligence, you have searched out a matter, they really don't know how to take you. And I wasn't rude. There's nothing to be rude about. I just decline. It's still my right. It's a God-given right that we have, that we can make a decision not to do that. Okay? And I just politely said, I'm not going to sign that. And they went and had to talk to somebody to figure out what to do with me. And they ended up giving me a piece of paper and asking me to write down that I was declining to sign that privacy or that privacy consent form. And I did. I just made it very generic, very clear. I said I do not agree to the policy and consent form that was given to me and will never agree to it. So y'all, we've got to be looking. We've got to watch. And there was another example I have here. And oh my word, you guys, this was for 4-H. So 4-H, if you read in here, it talks about, you're basically saying that there could be risks to your children, including injury or harm, bodily injury, disability, exposure to the cuckoo, and other viruses, and or illness and death. Well, that's pleasant. And these are the release forms that you have to sign before you're allowed to be considered a member of this group. And this is not just here, this is everywhere, y'all, everywhere. And so it's all done online. This form is online, it's electronic, blah, blah, blah. You have to read the little print, guys. It says, I hereby, so I fully assume the inherent risks associated with participation. Given my express approval, I release and discharge Purdue University, the trustees of Purdue University, the county commissioners, the county cooperative extension service, and each of their trustees, officers, appointees, agents, employees, and volunteers, released parties from all claims which my child or I might have for any injury or harm to my child arising out of my child's participation in any activity related to the program, even if such injury or harm is caused by the negligence or fault of any of the released parties. Whoa, that right there should be enough for us as parents to say, I don't think so. Okay? So it says, even if my child gets injured or harmed, or they said death, killed, by the negligence or fault of any released party. So if your trustee of Purdue comes and trips my child on a mountaintop walk and, something, God forbid, happened, this is saying that we're not allowed to hold them responsible. I do not, however, release these individuals and entities from liability for intentional, willful, or wanton acts, and this release shall not be construed to include such acts. But just ahead, you said that I'm releasing them completely. So explain that to me. Negligence or fault. How is fault different? How is fault different than intentional, willful, wanton? Okay? You see there's so much tricky verbiage. And look here, below, you don't have an option other than we have read and agreed to the terms. Where's the little tick box, I don't agree? Or where's the box that lets you write something in to stand in opposition? There's nothing. They want consent. And then here, this one. This is saying you'll agree to, not using any lewd, indecent, obscene conduct or language. But look at this. Look at this. Accept supervision and support. What kind of support? Could you be a little more clear? From extension staff or designated volunteers. Be mindful of and follow Purdue Center for Disinformation and other state and local health authority safety guidelines and procedures related to any epidemic or pandemic illness. What? Be mindful of and follow. When you sign this, when you click to the box, you're saying what they say you're saying, and there's no way to sidestep this online. It says, I have been given the opportunity to review these expectations and the opportunity to ask questions, and those questions have been answered to my satisfaction. By signing below, I acknowledge that I have read and agreed to abide by the behavioral expectations in this document. I understand that my failure to comply, there we are again, right, compliance, with these expectations may result in disciplinary action or termination of my participation in the 4-H program. What disciplinary action? What are they going to do? If we don't comply, we're right here telling them, okay, you can discipline me. Does it go into detail of what that disciplinary action is? No, nowhere. So it's disciplinary action or. This is such a trap, you guys. I'm telling you right now, it's a trap. It's a, like a brother said, it's a program to raise pigs and sew and do crafts and maybe some archery or go fishing together. This is ridiculous. This is 4-H. What are other programs like? Guaranteed they're the same. Member consent. Here we go again, right? All persons are expected to conduct themselves, and that's good. We should. So as a participant, I will respect, follow, and enforce the rules, policies, and guidelines established by the Purdue University Co-op Extension Service, including all laws related to child abuse and substance abuse. Okay, so we're now enforcers? That's what it says. It says respect, follow, and enforce the rules. This is that snitching on your neighbor thing, isn't it? Conduct myself in a manner, conflict management, don't want to interfere with maintenance of appropriate order and discipline. Be truthful and forthright when representing. At no time will I cheat or knowingly furnish false information. Well, who determines what's false information? Truth is truth. But to the people who don't want truth to be known, truth is false information. You see the catch in this? Let's look at the next page. And here we go again. You have no option to disagree. We understand, agree to abide by, follow, and comply with the rules, policies, and expectations. Courteous, respectful, good sportsmanship, positive role model. Failing to do so will be grounds for sanctions against and or dismissal of me and the member of the program. Sanctions? What? 4-H they've got sanctions? 4-H sanctions? I have no. What does that mean? Could they expound on that? And you only have the option that we have read and agree. Have read and agree, right? Down below, for the photo policy, you do have the option to click on for questions or to decline this condition. Oh, look, they do know how to use the button that gives you an option to say no. And look under here. Under here, it's going to talk about, look at that, diversity. Diversity. It says, embrace diversity among all youth and adult participants, helping each person to feel welcome and included in the 4-H Youth Development Program. I'm sorry, y'all. But as I read it again and again, I hate it more and more. I really do. It's it's the globalist mindset. It's coming through a university, so of course it's indoctrination. It's just a different way of indoctrinating. Here we go to the final pages. They're asking youth and guardian, for signatures. We have read and completed all required sections above. We have read and completed all required sections above. And you click on the little dot and you put your full name. I mean, come on. It's our kids and the parent. And there is nowhere that you can decline online. That's what happens when you try and submit it without clicking it. All consents must be signed. And if you don't, even if there's one that you leave unchecked, it does not go through. So there is just a lot of fishiness going on behind closed doors. There's a lot of compliance lingo, right? There's a lot of verbiage that's wanting to get us to lay down our rights as parents. I mean, all that does, especially that 4-H thing, it opens the door. And this is what came to my mind. If I sign this, I'm telling them that if I comply and say that we'll comply with whatever the state or feds or whoever talk about, if they come down with an order and say that, well, everybody today is going to go and march off the Lincoln Town Bridge at 2 p.m. If the state has ordered it, if the feds have ordered it, I've given my consent. And if they're abiding by everything that the mandates and the rules and the requirements and the compliance, kings and queens out there are instituting, I just gave away every right that I have as their parent. Every right. It's gone. Your decision, your ability to say, no, I'm not okay with that, it's gone. I mean, I'm looking down the road, you guys. I'm looking down the road. I'm looking at the dissenting, right? The voices who will not comply, the voices who will not bow and need a bail, the ones who will not take a mark, the ones who will not conform to the patterns of this world and their many magistrates and their many dictators and, little champion people out there hoorahing and making sure that people are following in line and doing as they ought to do because it's what they told us. Those of us who won't, if we continue to sign documents like that, we may as well just, I don't know, y'all. We may as well, what that first article said, they were signing over their firstborn. That's what it is. This is taking away every authority of a parent and instead placing it in the hands of whoever your child is around at that time. Even if it's in a dentist chair, you guys, this is saying that you have the right to do with my information as you please. So what if a doctor or a dentist wrote a nice little note in your chart and said something like, for instance, we don't do fluoride when we go. And what if they made a nice little note, parent believes fluoride is no good, conspiracy, factualist, I don't know, loves Jesus, I don't know what they put in these charts, but who knows? And doctors, scribble, so we probably couldn't read it anyway. But if they did that, and then an entity, a federal, local, civil, whatever, comes down the road and they're like, we need all the documents on one, Traci Vinet. And okay, well, yep, she signed the consent. Here you go. Well, then they're going to see all of this, which then could build their case, right? And I know that the people, the powers that be that are against our Father in heaven, and therefore they're against us too, I know they probably have all the info that they could ever want and more, right? Every picture from my phone, every text message and email I've ever sent, they've got it all. They've got probably years worth of backing with videos and stuff, that they could use against us all. But I'm just saying that on my end, I don't want to be responsible for a knock at the door and some feds busting down the door because I didn't read the fine print, right? So if it's the Lord's hand and His will and something like that were to occur, I pray that I could give glory and all glory to God, even in the midst of something like that. But if it's because of my own ignorance or my lack of searching out a matter or really reading that fine print, then I'm guilty. I'm guilty. My people perish for a lack of knowledge. This is a lack of looking into a matter to really see what it's about, to do our due diligence, right? And anyway, y'all, I figured I'd come on here and just present that. I hope it was somewhat informative and, head scratching. And I love all of you. That's all for today with regards to this. But like I said, I hope it was food for thought and thought-provoking to a point that you will never again just sit at a doctor's office or a dentist office or a hospital or a car dealership or your phone updates without really reading through it. And I know it's a hassle. I know it is, but it's worth it. because we don't know what they're trying to sneak in. And I just really believe that because the devil's a liar and crafty and subtle, that it's in the fine print that we'll probably see most of the hangmans, if you will. All right. You guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you later, Lord willing.
Thank you again for joining me today. I do appreciate all of the love, prayers, support, and encouragement. If you would like to offer a love gift, you can find my Venmo account information in the description below.